What happens when a Hollywood star known for staying calm suddenly leaves an entire daytime talk show panel speechless, with one answer nobody saw coming? What happens when a simple question turns into a tense exchange that slowly changes the energy in the room? Stay tuned, because this conversation took a turn that even the audience didn't expect. Make sure to subscribe to the Star Talks and like and comment for more talk show coverage. The audience applauded as Ryan Gosling walked onto the stage, smiling politely, waving toward the crowd before taking his seat at the table. The hosts greeted him warmly, the kind of polished daytime energy viewers expected. Whoopi leaned back slightly in her chair and smiled. "So, Ryan, good to have you here." Ryan nodded. "Thank you for having me. Happy to be here." Joy gave a playful grin. "You always seem suspiciously calm. I'm convinced you never get stressed." The audience laughed softly. Ryan smiled. "That's definitely not true." "Oh, come on," Joy interrupted. "You always look relaxed. Either you've mastered life or you're very good at pretending." More laughter. Ryan chuckled. "Maybe pretending a little." Whoopi crossed her arms lightly, listening. "Well, people see you and think success, fame, movies, red carpets. But I always wonder, does that image annoy you? Like people thinking life is somehow perfect." Ryan paused briefly. "I think people only see moments," he said. "Nobody sees a full life. They see snapshots." The audience gave a soft reaction. Sunny said, nodding. "That's interesting." Ryan continued. People assume confidence means certainty. But most people are figuring things out in real time." Whoopi tilted her head slightly. "But doesn't fame kind of come with that? People are going to make assumptions." "Of course," Ryan said calmly. "That part comes with it." He folded his hands together. "But assumptions get weird when people think they know who you are based on interviews or clips." Joy laughed. "That's literally this business." Audience laughter followed. Ryan smiled politely. "Yeah, and sometimes it's fair. Sometimes people connect with what they see. But there's pressure in always appearing composed." Sunny jumped in. "Pressure from fans or pressure from Hollywood?" Ryan thought for a second. "Honestly, both." The audience quieted. "There's this expectation to always have the right answer," Ryan continued. "You're supposed to be charming, thoughtful, funny, serious, but not too serious." A few audience members laughed knowingly. "And if you say the wrong thing?" Ryan shrugged lightly. "People decide who you are immediately." Whoopi leaned forward. "But isn't that accountability?" The room shifted slightly. Ryan stayed composed. "It can be." Whoopi nodded once. "But," he smiled carefully, "but accountability and assumptions aren't always the same thing." A soft audience reaction moved through the studio. Joy raised her eyebrows. "Okay, now we're getting somewhere." Whoopi gave a short laugh. "No, because I mean it seriously. People hear celebrities complain about pressure, and sometimes folks sitting at home think, you're rich, famous, successful. What exactly is the problem?" Several audience members applauded. Ryan nodded respectfully. "That's fair." Whoopi looked surprised for a second. "You agree?" "I understand why people feel that way," Ryan replied. "I really do." He shifted slightly in his chair. "But having opportunities doesn't suddenly erase pressure or insecurity." Sunny leaned in. "Do you think celebrities complain too much sometimes?" The audience reacted immediately with laughter and scattered applause. Ryan laughed too. "That feels dangerous." Joy interrupted. "Answer it anyway." More laughter. Ryan smiled. "I think people are people." Whoopi raised an eyebrow. "That's diplomatic." "No, seriously," Ryan replied. "You can be grateful and overwhelmed at the same time." The room quieted again. "You can know you're lucky," he continued, "and still struggle with expectations." Whoopi crossed her arms again, this time leaning forward more. "But do you think audiences are tired of hearing privileged people talk about struggle?" A louder audience reaction followed that question. Ryan paused. Not defensive. Not uncomfortable. Just thinking. "Well," he said carefully, "I think audiences are tired of people sounding disconnected." That line landed immediately. The audience reacted with a louder mix of applause and murmurs. Joy looked toward Whoopi. "Oh!" Sunny glanced between them. Whoopi stayed still for a second. "What do you mean by disconnected?" Ryan answered calmly. "I mean when people talk like money solves every emotional experience." The audience clapped again. He continued before anyone interrupted. "Look, financial stress is real. That affects people in serious ways. I'd never compare my life to someone trying to pay rent or feed their family." The audience applauded again. "But emotionally," Ryan said, Fear, insecurity, pressure, anxiety, uncertainty. Those things don't exactly disappear. Whoopi nodded slowly, but didn't fully look convinced. Okay, she said. But some people hear that and go, sure, but I'd rather cry in a mansion. Huge audience laughter. Even Ryan laughed. Fair enough. Joy slapped the table lightly. That's honest. Ryan smiled. I get that reaction. Then he paused. But emotional stuff doesn't work logically. The room became quieter again. You can't tell somebody, you shouldn't feel bad because someone else has it worse. Sunny nodded immediately. That's true. Ryan looked toward the panel. I think sometimes public conversations become competitions. Competitions? Whoopi asked. Yeah, Ryan replied. Who deserves empathy? Who's allowed to struggle? A few audience members clapped. And I don't think that helps people. Whoopi leaned back, studying him. So let me ask you something directly. Ryan nodded. If somebody watching at home says, Ryan Gosling doesn't understand regular people, what would you say? The audience reacted loudly. Some cheers. Some murmurs. Joy leaned toward Ryan dramatically. Careful. Laughter. Ryan smiled, but this time he paused longer. The silence stretched just enough for the room to notice. Whoopi watched closely. Sunny folded her hands. The audience quieted. Ryan finally looked directly toward Whoopi. I'd probably say they're right. The room reacted instantly. A surprised murmur spread through the audience. Joy blinked. Wait. Whoopi tilted her head. What? Ryan nodded slowly. No, seriously. They'd be right. Now the panel looked caught off guard. I can try to understand, Ryan continued calmly. I can listen. I can care. I can pay attention. The audience stayed unusually quiet. But I can't pretend my life experience is identical to someone else's. Whoopi stared at him for a second. That's interesting. Ryan nodded. I think pretending would actually be disrespectful. The audience murmured again. Sunny leaned forward. So then what responsibility do celebrities have? Ryan exhaled lightly. To stop talking like experts on everybody's life. The audience clapped harder. Joy looked toward Whoopi again. Oh, this got serious. Whoopi smiled slightly. No, because now I got a question. She leaned forward again. Do you think people on shows like this do that? The audience reacted instantly. A louder ooh rolled through the studio. Ryan blinked once, smiled politely, then looked down at the table for a second. The room suddenly felt quieter. Joy laughed nervously. Okay, now we're in trouble. Ryan looked back up, still calm. Well, the audience leaned in. Whoopi didn't move. Ryan smiled carefully. I think sometimes. The audience grew completely quiet. I think sometimes, Ryan said carefully, still smiling, everybody gets a little too comfortable speaking for people instead of listening to them. The audience reacted instantly. A mix of applause and surprised murmurs filled the room. Joy leaned back in her chair dramatically. Oh, okay. Sunny gave a small laugh but watched Whoopi carefully. Whoopi stayed still for a moment. You saying us? She asked, half smiling. Ryan shook his head lightly. I'm saying everybody. The audience laughed softly. No, really, Ryan continued. Actors, politicians, talk show hosts, interviewers, public figures. Everybody. Whoopi nodded once but didn't let it go. Yeah, but you looked right at me. Audience laughter exploded. Ryan laughed too. That was unfortunate timing. Even Whoopi laughed at that. Convenient answer, she said. Ryan leaned slightly forward. No, I mean it. I think people mean well. But there's a difference between talking about people and listening to people. Sunny crossed her arms thoughtfully. That's fair. Joy jumped in quickly. But hold on. Isn't this literally what we do here? We talk about issues. Ryan nodded. Of course. And opinions, Joy added. Absolutely. So what's the problem? Ryan paused. There isn't always a problem. Whoopi gave him a look. That sounds like a dodge. Audience laughter. Ryan smiled. Okay, fair. He folded his hands again. I think the problem starts when conversations become declarations. The audience quieted. Sunny tilted her head. What do you mean? Ryan took a second. Like when somebody says, here's what Americans think, or here's what struggling people feel, or everybody knows this. Whoopi nodded slowly. You think we generalize? Ryan gave a small shrug. I think everybody does. The audience murmured. Social media does it. TV does it. Celebrities do it. People at dinner do it. Joy interrupted. My family definitely does it. Laughter broke the tension. Ryan smiled. All I'm saying is, Real life feels messier than the way conversations happen on TV sometimes. That line got another reaction. Not loud applause this time, more thoughtful. Whoopi leaned forward. Messier how? Ryan answered immediately. Because real people contradict themselves. Sunny nodded. That's true. You can be grateful and frustrated, Ryan continued. Confident and insecure. Hopeful and angry. Whoopi listened closely. You think TV oversimplifies? Ryan hesitated. I think TV likes clarity. The audience laughed softly. Joy pointed at him. That was diplomatic again. Ryan laughed. No, seriously. He looked toward the audience briefly. People are complicated. Sunny leaned in. But audiences also want answers. Totally, Ryan said. And people come to shows like this because they want opinions. Whoopi crossed her arms again. So are you criticizing opinion culture? Ryan shook his head immediately. No. Then what are you saying? He smiled politely. I'm saying certainty is addictive. That landed. The audience quieted instantly. Whoopi raised an eyebrow. Explain. Ryan nodded. I think people love certainty because uncertainty feels scary. Sunny leaned back slightly. Interesting. If somebody says, this is exactly what's wrong and here's exactly who to blame, Ryan continued, that feels comforting. A few audience members clapped. But life usually isn't that clean. Whoopi watched him carefully. So when people argue online all day, Ryan smiled. Exactly. Joy jumped in. Oh God, don't get him started. Laughter. Ryan laughed too. No, but really. Everybody becomes an expert instantly. Sunny laughed. True. You read one article, Ryan said. Watch 3 clips and suddenly it's, here's the truth. Audience applause. Whoopi tilted her head. But people are emotional. Right, Ryan said. And emotions are real. He paused. But emotions aren't always facts. The audience reacted loudly. Whoopi sat back. Okay. Joy pointed toward Ryan. That sentence alone is going to cause problems online. Laughter spread through the studio. Ryan grinned. I know. Sunny smiled. But emotions matter. They matter enormously, Ryan replied. They just shouldn't be the whole story. Whoopi narrowed her eyes slightly. So what's the whole story? Ryan smiled. I don't think anybody fully knows. That got another mixed reaction. Some applause. Some laughter. Joy groaned playfully. You're impossible. No, Ryan laughed. I'm serious. He gestured lightly. Everybody's living through their own experience. Whoopi leaned forward again. Okay, but I'm going to challenge you. Audience applause. Ryan nodded. Please. Whoopi's voice became firmer. When people with influence say things like, nobody knows the answer, some people hear that as avoiding responsibility. The room shifted again. Ryan listened without interrupting. You have influence, Whoopi continued. We have influence. She gestured toward the panel. At some point, people expect you to stand for something. Audience applause. Ryan nodded slowly. I agree. Whoopi paused. You do? Yes. So what do you stand for? The audience reacted immediately. A louder clap rippled through the studio. Sunny looked curious. Joy leaned in. Ryan smiled, but the pause came again. Not dramatic. Thoughtful. Well, he said, I stand for trying not to pretend I know everything. Audience laughter. Whoopi laughed too. That's not an answer. No, Ryan said, smiling. It kind of is. He continued calmly. I think confidence gets confused with wisdom. The room grew quieter again. Sometimes the loudest voice sounds smartest, Ryan said. Sunny nodded slowly. But loud doesn't mean thoughtful. Audience applause. Whoopi tapped the table lightly. You think media rewards loudness. Ryan gave a tiny shrug. I think attention rewards loudness. The audience reacted again. Joy pointed around the room dramatically. Everybody's getting called out today. Laughter. Ryan shook his head quickly. No, I'm including myself. Sunny smiled. How? Ryan leaned back. Actors spend years learning how to present themselves. He smiled slightly. You do enough interviews and you start sounding polished. Audience laughter. And polished isn't always honest. That line changed the room again. Whoopi watched him closely. So you're saying celebrities perform authenticity? Ryan paused. Sometimes. Audience reaction. Sunny raised her eyebrows. That's surprisingly honest. Ryan nodded. I think people can sense when somebody sounds rehearsed. Joy laughed loudly. Oh, viewers know immediately. Whoopi smirked. Especially daytime viewers. Audience applause. Ryan smiled. Exactly. Whoopi looked at him carefully now. So tell me this. Her voice softened slightly. When was the last time you felt misunderstood? The audience quieted again. Ryan looked down for a moment. Then back up. Honestly, Whoopi nodded. Pretty often. The room stayed quiet. Ryan's tone softened. I think everybody feels misunderstood sometimes. Sunny nodded. That's true. But when people only know pieces of you, Ryan continued, they start building versions. Whoopi leaned in. Versions? Yeah. He smiled faintly. Good version. Bad version. Fake version. Serious version. Audience murmurs. And eventually people react to the version instead of the person. The room grew noticeably quieter. Whoopi stayed focused on him. So how do you deal with that? Ryan let out a small breath. You stop trying to win everybody. Audience applause. Joy snapped her fingers. That's a lesson. Ryan laughed softly. No, really. He looked toward the audience. You can't live by committee. More applause. Whoopi nodded once. But then people say celebrities become disconnected. Ryan smiled carefully. Maybe. He paused. But sometimes distance happens because everybody expects certainty from people still figuring life out. Whoopi looked at him for a long second, then smiled slightly. You know what? The audience leaned in. You came ready today. Laughter. Ryan laughed. I didn't mean to. Whoopi leaned back. No, because now I'm curious. She folded her arms. There's one thing you said earlier I can't stop thinking about. Ryan nodded. You said people shouldn't pretend to understand everybody. Right. Whoopi looked directly at him. So tell me this. The audience quieted again. What happens when somebody says something publicly, and people think it's harmful? Ryan's smile faded slightly. He nodded once. Yeah. Whoopi continued. Should we listen first? She paused. Or call it out immediately? The audience erupted into applause. The applause lingered for a moment before settling into a quieter anticipation. Ryan shifted slightly in his chair, glancing briefly toward the audience before looking back at the table. I think, he said carefully, it depends. Joy laughed immediately. There he goes again. Audience laughter followed. No, seriously, Ryan said with a grin. I know that sounds frustrating. Whoopi smiled but stayed focused. Okay, depends on what? Ryan folded his hands together. Intent matters. Impact matters. Context matters. Sunny nodded slowly. That's fair. But, Ryan added, I think speed changes conversations. Whoopi raised an eyebrow. Speed? Yeah. He gestured lightly. Somebody says something. 10 seconds later people are angry. 30 seconds later headlines exist. A minute later everyone has chosen sides. The audience murmured. Joy pointed toward him. You are definitely online. Laughter. Ryan smiled. Unfortunately. Sunny leaned in. So are you saying people overreact? Ryan shook his head. No. The answer came quickly. I think reactions are real. He paused. But I think certainty arrives too fast. That line landed. A few audience members clapped. Whoopi nodded slowly. So if someone says something offensive, Ryan exhaled lightly. Call it out. Audience applause. Whoopi leaned forward immediately. Okay, but, Ryan continued calmly, calling something out and deciding somebody's entire humanity in 5 minutes aren't necessarily the same thing. The audience reacted with a mix of applause and murmurs. Sunny nodded thoughtfully. That distinction matters. Joy tilted her head. Unless they say something really bad. Ryan nodded. Of course. He didn't hesitate. There are absolutely moments where accountability matters immediately. Whoopi watched him closely. So where's the line? Ryan smiled faintly. I don't think there's one line. Audience murmurs. I think context changes things. Whoopi folded her arms. That answer annoys people. Laughter spread through the room. I know, Ryan said. But real life annoys people. Even Whoopi laughed at that. Sunny jumped in. Okay, but here's the challenge. Ryan nodded. Go for it. We're living in a time where people feel exhausted, Sunny said. Exhausted by arguments, exhausted by outrage, exhausted by being told what to think. Audience applause. So what responsibility do public people have to calm things down? Ryan thought for a second. Maybe to stop acting like every disagreement is war. The audience clapped harder. Whoopi nodded once. That's interesting. Ryan leaned slightly forward. I think people disagree and immediately assume bad intentions. Joy interrupted. Because sometimes intentions are bad. Absolutely, Ryan replied. But not always. He looked around the table. Sometimes people are clumsy. Sonny nodded. True. Sometimes people say things badly, Ryan continued. Sometimes people are emotional. Sometimes they're defensive. Whoopi looked thoughtful now. And sometimes, Ryan smiled faintly. Sometimes they're just wrong. Laughter. Whoopi laughed too. Okay, good. Audience applause followed. Ryan laughed. I'm serious. He shrugged. People mess up. Sonny tilted her head. So do you believe people deserve grace? Ryan nodded. Yes. Then he paused. But grace doesn't mean immunity. The audience reacted immediately. A louder clap moved through the room. Whoopi pointed lightly at him. See, now that I agree with. Ryan smiled. I figured. Joy leaned in dramatically. Wait, hold on. Audience laughter. You're both agreeing too much now. This is daytime television. More laughter. Whoopi grinned. No, I still got questions. She turned back toward Ryan. You seem very measured. Ryan laughed softly. That's one word. What's the other word? Joy asked. Overthinking. Audience laughter exploded. Sonny smiled. That feels honest. Ryan nodded. I think before I speak probably too much. Whoopi looked curious. Because you're afraid of backlash? Ryan paused, then shrugged. Sometimes. The room quieted again. That honest? Joy asked. Ryan smiled. Why not? Audience applause. I think anybody who says public criticism doesn't affect them is probably lying a little. Sonny nodded immediately. Especially now. Ryan looked toward her. Yeah. He paused briefly. People think fame somehow makes criticism bounce off. The audience listened quietly. But attention magnifies things. Whoopi leaned back. You read comments? Audience laughter. Ryan grimaced jokingly. That's my bad habit. Joy laughed loudly. Oh no. You know what happens, Ryan continued. You tell yourself, I'll just look for 1 second. Audience laughter. And then suddenly you're 40 minutes deep. More laughter. Sonny smiled knowingly. And regretting everything. Exactly. Even Whoopi laughed. But, Ryan added, sometimes criticism teaches you something. The room settled again. Whoopi raised her eyebrows. You learn from comments. Sometimes. Ryan shrugged. If thousands of people misunderstand something, maybe I explained it badly. Audience murmurs. Sonny nodded. That's actually mature. But, Ryan continued, smiling slightly, sometimes the internet is also just having a very weird day. Huge laughter. Joy clapped immediately. That's true every day. The audience laughed harder. Whoopi smiled, shaking her head. You know, I expected you to come out here and talk movies. Ryan laughed. I can still do that. No, Whoopi said, smiling. This is more interesting. Audience applause. Then her expression shifted again. More serious. Can I ask something personal? Ryan nodded carefully. Sure. Whoopi paused. You seem thoughtful. Calm. She leaned forward. But what actually gets under your skin? The audience quieted. Ryan laughed softly. Oh, no, really, Joy said. Everybody has something. Sonny smiled. What annoys Ryan Gosling? Audience laughter. Ryan thought for a moment, then smiled. Certainty. The audience laughed in surprise. Whoopi blinked. Still. Ryan nodded. Yeah. He leaned slightly forward. When somebody acts like they fully understand another person after 30 seconds. The room became quieter. Or when disagreement immediately becomes contempt. Sonny nodded slowly. That's a good word. Ryan continued. You can disagree without deciding somebody's terrible. Audience applause. Whoopi looked thoughtful. But sometimes disagreement reveals character. Ryan nodded. Absolutely. He didn't hesitate. And sometimes it reveals fear. The audience quieted again. Whoopi tilted her head. Fear. Ryan nodded. I think people get scared. Of what? Being wrong. Being ignored. Losing control. Being judged. A few audience members clapped softly. And when people are scared, Ryan continued, they get louder. Whoopi looked down briefly at the table. Then back up. You think everybody's scared? Ryan smiled carefully. I think everybody wants to feel heard. The room softened somehow. Even the audience felt quieter. Sonny folded her hands. That feels true. Joy looked around dramatically. Why does this suddenly feel like therapy? Huge laughter broke the tension. Ryan laughed hard this time. I swear I didn't mean that. Whoopi smiled. No, but I get what you're saying. Then she paused. And her next question came slower, more direct. Okay. She looked him right in the eye. What happens when somebody feels heard? The audience grew quiet again, but still refuses to listen? Ryan's expression changed slightly. Not uncomfortable, just thoughtful. He leaned back for a moment, then forward again. The room waited. Well, Ryan said quietly, glancing briefly toward the audience before looking back at the table. I think that's when conversations stop being conversations. The room stayed quiet. Whoopi watched him closely. What does that mean? Ryan nodded once. I mean when people stop listening entirely and only wait for their turn to speak. A few audience members clapped softly. Sunny leaned forward. That happens a lot. Ryan gave a small laugh. Everywhere. Audience laughter followed. At dinner tables, online politics, interviews. He smiled faintly. Probably this table sometimes. The audience reacted immediately with louder laughter and scattered applause. Joy pointed dramatically. See, he did mean us. More laughter. Even Whoopi smiled. No, he's not wrong. That got another reaction from the audience. Whoopi folded her hands on the table. But if somebody refuses to listen, she said, what are you supposed to do? Ryan paused. I think sometimes you stop trying to win. The room quieted again. Sunny nodded slowly. That's hard. Yeah, Ryan admitted. Because everybody wants resolution. He glanced toward the audience. We want closure. Agreement. Somebody to say, you know what? You're right. Audience laughter. But real life doesn't always work like that. Whoopi leaned back slightly. So what does? Ryan smiled faintly. Boundaries. A few audience members clapped. Joy raised an eyebrow. Oh, therapy really arrived. Laughter filled the room again. Ryan laughed. No, seriously. He shrugged lightly. You can care about someone and still stop arguing. Sunny nodded immediately. That's true. You can disagree, Ryan continued, without turning everything into permanent war. Audience applause followed. Whoopi looked thoughtful now. And what about public conversations? Ryan took a breath. I think public conversations need more curiosity. The audience quieted. People ask questions, he continued, but half the time they're not actually asking. Joy laughed loudly. That is true. They're waiting, Ryan said, smiling, for the other person to stop talking. Audience laughter and applause blended together. Whoopi laughed too. Okay, fair. Ryan looked toward her respectfully. But honestly, I think shows like this matter. That shifted the room again. Whoopi raised an eyebrow. You do? Yeah. Ryan nodded. Because disagreement in public matters. The audience applauded. You don't all agree, Ryan continued, gesturing lightly around the table. People watching don't agree. Sunny nodded. But people see conversation. Whoopi looked curious. Even when it gets messy? Especially when it gets messy, Ryan replied. The audience clapped again. Because if everybody sounds identical, Ryan said, there's nothing to learn. Joy leaned back dramatically. Wow. Audience laughter. Did Ryan Gosling just save daytime television? More laughter broke out. Ryan laughed. I'm trying not to get banned from it. Whoopi smiled. No, but I appreciate that. Then she paused. You know what surprised me? Ryan looked over. What? You pushed back. Audience murmurs. But respectfully, Whoopi added. Ryan nodded slightly. I think disagreement goes bad when people stop seeing each other. The room quieted again. Sunny folded her hands. That's a strong point. Ryan looked thoughtful for a second. People become arguments. The audience listened carefully. Or headlines. Or labels. He paused. And eventually nobody remembers there's an actual person sitting there. Whoopi gave a small nod. That part one understand. For the first time all segment, the tension felt lighter. Not gone, but changed. The audience seemed to feel it too. Joy smiled. Okay, before this gets too emotional. Laughter. I need something lighter. Ryan laughed. Please. What's the weirdest thing somebody assumes about you? Huge audience laughter. Ryan immediately smiled. That I'm mysterious. The audience laughed harder. Sunny grinned. You're not. No, Ryan said quickly. I'm boring. Laughter exploded again. Like aggressively boring. Joy slapped the table. No chance. Ryan laughed. No, seriously. I stay home. I overthink conversations from 6 years ago. Audience laughter. Sunny pointed. That part felt real. Whoopi smiled. You replay arguments in your head? Ryan nodded instantly. All the time. The audience laughed knowingly. You ever win them later? Joy asked. Ryan laughed harder. Oh, constantly. The audience erupted. Whoopi shook her head, laughing. Okay, now you sound human. Ryan smiled. That's the goal. The applause lingered. Then Whoopi turned slightly toward the audience. This ended up being a very different conversation than I expected. Audience applause followed. Sunny nodded. Same. Whoopi looked back at Ryan. You gave us something to think about. Ryan smiled politely. Well, thank you for pushing back. The audience reacted warmly. Joy leaned in one last time. Still think we talked too much? Huge laughter. Ryan smiled. Professionally? Yes. The audience exploded. Even Whoopi laughed hard. Fair. The applause grew louder as the segment began wrapping. Ryan stood, shook hands around the table, exchanged a quick laugh with Joy, and thanked the audience before stepping off stage to a standing ovation from part of the crowd. But the conversation didn't stop there. By the time the segment aired online, clips were spreading everywhere. Some viewers praised Ryan for staying calm under pressure and pushing back respectfully. Others argued he had quietly challenged the panel without ever directly saying it. Some thought Whoopi asked tough but fair questions. Others debated whether Ryan's comments about certainty, public outrage, and listening reflected exactly what modern conversations are missing. Social media quickly split into opinions. Some posts called it the most unexpectedly thoughtful daytime interview in months. Others joked that Ryan Gosling somehow turned a celebrity appearance into group therapy. Short clips of his line, "Certainty is addictive," circulated widely. Another moment viewers kept reposting was when he admitted, "You can't pretend to understand everybody." Meanwhile, clips of Whoopi asking direct questions sparked conversations about accountability, media, and whether disagreement can still happen respectfully on television. Backstage reports from audience members described the room as surprisingly tense at moments, but unusually respectful. Several people said the crowd became quieter the longer the conversation went on, especially during the exchanges about empathy, criticism, and public judgment. And after the cameras stopped rolling, viewers online kept debating one big question. Did Ryan Gosling shock the panel with his response? Or simply say out loud what many people already think? What do you think? Was Ryan fair in his response to Whoopi? Or did the conversation reveal bigger tensions about public debate, fame, and accountability? Share your opinion in the comments and subscribe to the Star Talks for more real talk show stories.